Welcome back to Studio F. We're on Fast Times with Willy B. We'll be talking about Godzilla Minus One. Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
Rusty, come on up here.
Welcome back to Fast Times with Willy B. I'm Willy B. I got my boy Dustin here with me today. Dustin, how we feeling today?
I'm feeling like a real rock and roller is what I'm feeling. Especially after seeing that Godzilla movie, man. I just want to pick up a bus and put it back down.
Pick up a bus and put it back. You don't want to throw it? You just want to put it back down?
Just put it back down.
Well, that's awfully nice of you.
Yeah, I imply your power.
Yeah, I think Japan would have much rather had you in this movie. But anyways, Godzilla Minus One. Obviously, we went and saw it. Basically, everything you saw was done by Takashi Yamazaki. It seems like he had his fingerprints on just about every department that goes into making a movie.
Yeah,
and obviously, we both think he did a great job. So we'll jump right into the good. Where do you want to start? There's a lot of good in this movie.
Should we start with the opening?
Let's start with the opening.
All right. Yeah.
The opening. I can't remember an opening that I liked as much as this one.
Dude, okay, so here's the thing. I've been waiting for a Godzilla movie to sort of scare me.
Yeah.
And whenever he gets to the island, and then it's nighttime, and then
the sirens go
off, and you don't like. It's like an atmosphere is building, a fear and dread, like what's going on,
exactly.
Is swelling, is it the Americans, is it what is it? And then you see the deep sea fish wash up along the shore, and it's like implying something that's coming, and of course we all know it's Godzilla, but the cool thing too is that we're so used to the Godzilla timeline where he shows up full force Godzilla in 1954.
Yeah.
And so we're thinking like, what kind of Godzilla is this now? Because this is years before.
Yeah.
The atomic bomb, didn't mutate him just yet.
Yeah.
And then like. You don't fully see him, but you sort of do. He's like a big shadow.
Yeah.
And then he's just causing mayhem. But it just builds upon itself, man.
And like you said, you knew it was Godzilla, but at the same time, I was like you said, this is jumping back to while World War II is still going on. This could have been an air raid from America. Mm-hmm. And so at that same time, I didn't know if it was Godzilla. And then he flashes that light, and I love the look.
Yeah.
Love the look of Godzilla. And like you said, just a tone setter. It's a tone setter.
It is a tone setter.
And, when you take a public speaking class, they say it's all about the hook. Mm-hmm. This movie had one hell of a hook.
Absolutely. Totally. And not only, did it hook me into the Godzilla and to the tone of the movie, the character, what was his name?
Koichi.
Yeah. I felt like I knew the character. He's returning. He's supposed to be a kamikaze pilot. He's returning. He didn't do his duty.
What he was supposed to do, yeah.
Right off the gate, you know somewhat of who this character is and what his inner turmoil is going to be throughout the movie, and then it's even amplified whenever he has the opportunity to possibly gun down Godzilla, which I don't think he was going to be able to do that, honestly.
Yeah.
But but because he chose to freeze like he did as a kamikaze pilot, it sacrifices the rest of his comrades.
Yeah.
And that's such a theme that immediately is set at the beginning of the movie, and it just carries on throughout, and it just it really hooks you in. It hooks you throughout the whole ride of the movie.
It does, and
perfectly.
That also plays into the emotional side of things, which is another thing I loved about this movie. So going from the opening, you said it. This entire movie, you see his guilt through dreams, through him not being able to commit to who you could tell someone he loves, and it just eats at him the entire movie, and it kind of pulls on the heartstrings a bit.
Yeah. Oh, dude, this is An argument could be made for the original, but like this might be like the most emotional Godzilla movie that
Yeah.
I've ever seen in my life.
For sure.
I haven't seen all of the Godzilla movies, but like especially like some of the newer like 2000 Millennium Era ones, but like comparatively, dude, this is heavy.
Yeah, it plays more on the relationship side of things than
Yeah.
I think the original did. The original definitely played more into the war side of things, whereas this one, you got to kind of be a part of this family. Because after he returns back to Tokyo, an air raid killed his entire family. He runs into this girl who's stealing for this kid that's not even hers, and those three become this family, and you get to follow them around, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Very well written. And
Absolutely.
another note is the budget. $15 million budget.
Yeah.
And to see what like IPs like Marvel, DC, and these big brands who have $250 to $300 million budgets and are struggling to make a film that sits well with everybody. And to see the reception this is getting, how we both are taking this, kudos.
Yeah. Oh.
15 million. They did a lot with a $15 million budget.
Yeah, it's not how much you have. It's what you do with what you have, you know. And what was the director's name?
Takashi Yamazaki.
Yamazaki, dude. I'm gonna remember that name now. Takashi Yamazaki. He's an auteur.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you could tell a lot of heart went into this project. It wasn't just okay, I got to make this. Like, recent news, Taika Waititi said I did Thor to make ends meet. This wasn't one of those. This wasn't I'm making Godzilla Minus One to make ends meet. This was I'm making Godzilla Minus One because I love Godzilla.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like.
It feels like a passion project.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And to get even a budget like that, obviously, is better than nothing. But I mean, there's movies this year that have no sign of visual effects and have double the budget.
Yeah.
And what he was able to do, and are the visual effects perfect? No. There's obviously flaws, but I don't think they're nearly as bad as some of the big IPs that have these big budgets are chugging out.
I agree. I wasn't even I was not distracted by any of the CGI. I figured a lot of it was CGI.
Yeah.
Obviously Godzilla is CGI, but I feel like he blended the CGI with maybe practical effects at some parts, like whenever his head is sticking out of the water.
Yeah.
Now that's like a super iconic shot, and I'm so used to seeing a guy in a suit sticking out his head out of the water, and at points I felt like I could touch Godzilla during those parts. It looked like it was somebody actually sticking their head out the water and they had a suit on or something.
Yeah, the worst we saw was probably far out water shots with boats. That was probably the worst CGI I gotten, and still at that point it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
But what he did with this budget is what blows my mind. And speaking of CGI and shots, I thought the cinematography was gorgeous. My favorite was when we got underwater shots. Some of the underwater shots with Godzilla swimming were awesome.
Yeah, you were able to get he would get some really nice close-ups of Godzilla's face swimming past the camera underwater, and
the spikes coming out of the water.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh.
And it all plays into the look of Godzilla is one of my favorites.
It's definitely a classic Godzilla look,
with a modern twist.
He's slightly modified. His spikes
the spikes are sweet, dude.
I really love personally how the spikes would
the build up
eject from him. Well, not eject. What was it
kind of like
Wolverine's claws would. They go one at a time, and it builds up the tensity.
That first shot where you see it, where it's going up his spine.
Yeah.
The trailer showed a little snippet of that, but seeing the full spine build up and then the mouth turn blue as the head coughs back, and what releases what is an atomic bomb.
Exactly, and the first time that he does it, well, I guess the first time he does it is underneath the water, but we don't see him charge up or anything.
Yeah.
But when he finally is on land and he's just tearing apart the city, which is another thing. This movie is a super just chaotic neutral Godzilla,
Mm-hmm.
which is just a callback to the original.
Yeah.
And he just shows up and he's just like pissed off and just tearing through the city.
Yeah.
He's just walking through the city at some points, and you know, there's havoc. But whenever we finally see him charge up for the first time, it builds up and builds up and builds up, not just to see Godzilla use his atomic breath, but like the impact of that first time we see him use it in the city, of what happens.
It was an atomic bomb.
Dude, oh my God, it was heartbreaking because you see
Everything just collapses.
everything
Buildings,
collapses.
people.
And she goes flying, and you know, we're left to assume what happens to her.
Yeah,
It rains just.
It almost rains like an ashy rain.
Yeah,
like
yeah, it's
the
just-
ash that was left over from this atomic breath mixed with rain, and this is where you get one of my favorite, as far as like pulling on the heartstrings, that scream that you hear from Koichi after he loses Noriko, the girl that he hasn't married because he's battling his own war in his head, but you can tell he loves.
Yeah.
Oh, it just melts your heart, and you're left sitting there defeated almost. Like you felt like you were defeated by Godzilla as well.
Yeah. It was he was an enemy in the movie, but he's a natural, you know, what am I
Phenomenon.
thinking? Yeah,
almost.
he's just a natural phenomenon. Yeah.
And that scene in general really plays on to, one, the cinematography, and two, the emotional aspect of this film. As well as, you know, anybody that's seen a Godzilla movie knows that was badass as well. What, you know, Yamazaki was able to create, like, it was different.
Yeah.
It was different. Because, you know, you've seen the blue atomic breath, like you said, and he kind of moves with it. This was almost like he shot an H-bomb out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And it just... It was...
And it just demolished everything.
Powerful.
Absolutely powerful. It was more than just, oh, cool, Godzilla and his atomic breath. It's like, do I think that was cool?
It was breathtaking.
Yeah.
You're left there and you're sitting like, you don't even know what to think.
Yeah, like he just obliterated all these people. Like, is that cool? Is it really?
Yeah,
Like,
right. But this then, you know, takes us obviously until the rising action of the climax. This is where the supporting characters really stand up, you know. I love the supporting characters. I love the kid, the captain, Doc.
Yeah.
Those three that, you know, Koichi gets a job with, blowing up American mines that are in the sea.
Yeah.
This right here, you see Dr. Noda, come up with the plan to take down Godzilla, and this is where you see Koichi's able to get his full circle moment, like, okay, now get me a plane. Like, let me be a kamikaze. Let me make up for my mistakes. Let me avenge my fallen love. And I think it's funny because all of this takes like an hour, and it felt like it was 20 minutes long because it was so intense.
Yeah.
The build up, the climax, the fall, everything was so intense. There was never a dull moment, but I loved that final battle. Everything about it.
Excellent.
It looked gorgeous. The plan was fun, like unique, a unique way to take down Godzilla.
Yeah.
The full circle moment, the sound. Can we just talk about the sound for a second?
Oh, excellent. Whoever...
The music during that final battle, chef's kiss. I loved when they thought that they killed him and it went silent, and you don't hear anything until he's building up.
Yeah.
They thought they killed him, but he's back. He's building up, about to atomic breath.
Yep.
Both of these ships, and it goes silent, and you see all of these faces, all of the emotion. Great face acting, by the way.
Absolutely.
And all you hear is the sound of a jet in the distance, a little fighter jet, a little fighter plane, and obviously Koichi.
Yep.
And I loved that too. I loved, you know, it was kind of abrupt. He hit the mouth, and
Yeah.
it just stopped
was
for a
like-
minute. And you're like,
Well, you're like, yeah, what happened?
what's going to happen? And then obviously an explosion.
Yeah.
And the way that the beams come out of Godzilla, he crumbled. It just,
Yeah.
everything about it. That was one of my favorite endings to a monster movie.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. And it was because it's a character-driven movie.
Yeah.
And that's so, like, in the Godzilla movies, like, I usually have a hard time, like, attaching myself to a lot of the characters in the movie. And
For sure.
There's some of them that, that the characters are pretty well written. But, like, this one, the characters in this one have to be the best in any Godzilla movie that I've seen, honestly. Like, every single one of them. Doc, Kid, Captain, Koichi, like...
Noriko, all of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was because of the character arc that was set from the beginning of the movie that just made that final when he, rams that plane into Godzilla's mouth. And then you see... Because it's like... Am I going to be... I was thinking, like, am I going to be cool... if he does actually, like, sacrifice himself, or, like, do I want him to save himself,
Yeah.
Do I want him, and then...
You see him eject from the plane, and it's cool because that eject button was put in by the mechanic that he sought out from the original island, the only other survivor who hated his guts because he thinks he got all his men killed. It was... Everything right there came full circle.
Yeah.
Well, everything, all but one thing, and we get that. But that scene was when that silent part that turns into the jet engine, that was when the tears started building up.
Yeah.
That was when the tears, they weren't out yet.
It was emotional, though.
They started to bubble. They started to bubble behind the eyelids. They were coming. They were coming.
Same.
And what we get after, he lands, dude, I could feel the tears streaming down my face.
Yes.
I didn't do an ugly cry. Like, I wasn't ugly crying. Like, I wasn't I wasn't ugly crying.
No,
but they were falling.
Yeah, me too, man.
he gets this telegraph that Noriko survived. Mm-hmm. And when he goes in there, and, some people will get turned off by this movie because you have to read subtitles. It's obviously spoken in Japanese. I feel like that's what's going to kill it in theaters. I feel like a lot of people in America will be like, oh, I'm not going to read subtitles. Sucks. Definitely worth the watch, obviously. But when you read those subtitles and she says, "Are you done with your war?" I was like, that's when it almost turned into an ugly cry.
Yes.
That's when it almost turned, because it was just everything closed, and that's where you said you'll never forget that name. Yamazaki closed it perfectly. He opened it perfectly and closed it perfectly. I'm not saying everything in between was perfect, but man, did he have quite the hook and quite the finish.
Yeah,
he crossed the finish line strong.
Well written,
very
well written. Yeah, man, I love that whole ending. It was just hooked together really nicely.
Yeah. That's story writing at its finest.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting too the way that they did the ending, because you watched the original
1954
today.
Yeah, before we watched.
So like the ending of that one, in my opinion, it's not, I wouldn't say anticlimactic.
It's got the emotional aspect of things, but I get what you're saying.
There's not like a huge battle. There's not like a showdown we're getting ready for, really.
Yeah.
They just kind of they dump the oxygen destroyer down there.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, let's see if this works. And then it works,
Yeah.
But this one was such a showdown, and rightfully so. The hero needed to suit up, like in a Batman movie.
Yeah.
He's
put the goggles down the plane.
Yeah. He does the thing, salutes.
A little Top Gun-esque,
It was Top Gun, because he comes in on the motorcycle, he rides the motorcycle around. It was
you gotta pay nods
he's got
to
the
classics.
jacket,
But, no, I know what you mean. Like, that was probably my biggest gripe with the first one. Mm-hmm. Obviously, great movie, especially, given the time.
Yeah. Heavy.
And the practical effects, obviously setting up a small town. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
But, like you said, the build up into this final battle, just for it to be as great as it was, might give me the edge.
Yeah.
Like this, I would probably say this is my favorite Godzilla movie. And I haven't seen all of them either. And I told you after leaving the theaters, I was like, dude, I might just binge all of them. Like,
it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but honestly, this is probably the most... An argument could be made for the original, but this could be the most well-made Godzilla movie that I've ever seen.
It's just so complete.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It's
hard
like
to find any flaws, and even the flaws, it's like I get it.
yeah. It's like the one I've been waiting for, and it harkens back to like other Godzilla movies from the past too, like on the island at the beginning, the way that we see him. If I don't know if you've seen Godzilla versus King Ghidorah from, I don't know, man, probably 1991. This one, at the beginning of it, they go back in time to World War II, and a pilot gets stranded on the island, and Godzilla's there, but it's like a prehistoric dinosaur, essentially. And it's like how Godzilla was at the beginning of this movie on the island. And then, like, so in that movie, like, they were trying to say, you know, this is what he looked like. He was just like sort of a dinosaur, and
this is what the atomic
bomb
did to him. Yeah,
I liked that callback there.
Yeah.
It made me think of that movie.
Yeah, it pays homage to a lot of the films that came before it, which even goes to show more of the passion project side of things that we believe this seemed like.
Yeah.
But there's so much good to talk about.
You could deep dive into everything.
Yeah.
Like you could tie it to, you know, the themes of the World War II and all sides of that, and you could tie it to how the bomb impacted everyone, and it gets pretty deep. It gets pretty heavy. I'm thinking back to like the shame that he must have felt whenever he got back.
Yeah.
And like right from the get-go, the one lady was just shaming the hell out of him.
She was like, "I thought you were a kamikaze. You're not." Like,
and
your parents are dead. Like, just drops that on him.
Yeah.
Your parents are dead, but you suck. Like,
yeah, and it's because of people like you who didn't do their duty. And I'm like, oh man. But then that it just circles back around at the end, because like everybody, you could say that like everybody who enlisted to stop Godzilla at the end of the movie could have had the same story that he did. You know, like they could have been kamikaze pilots that didn't do their duty. They could just be soldiers who didn't want to be there, you know, and they were probably shamed when they got back too, because they lived, you know, because honor and it's but then they all band together for the right reason this time, you know, like
to avenge 30,000 fallen people and 20,000 fallen buildings.
Yeah, and so people can live.
Which that news report after that first blast we talked about, 30,000 people dead and injured, 20,000 buildings gone. You're like, just you almost imagine if that happened in real life, and it's hard to imagine.
Right, like today, like I feel like everybody would be involved on that sort of thing. I would assume that everybody would be involved back then, but I do like the commentary of America won't help us because they think it'll start another war. Yeah. And it's like, of course they won't help us, you know?
Like, just imagine like a monster like that hitting New York City. Just the impact that would have on not just that city, but the country and the world. Yeah. It's just, stuff like that's heavy. Like you said, it gets heavy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Heavy. Let's hop over to the meh. And all I have to say in this category is the visual effects. And like I said, they weren't bad. And for the most part, they were good. It was just those little minor nitpicky things. Yeah. That the outer shots from the water, but like Godzilla looked great. And it's hard to even say anything about it because the budget was so small.
Honestly, like, I can get over that stuff. Yeah. I feel like.
And to find out that the visual effects were also done by Yamazaki, like, when I say he had his fingerprint on everything in this project, he had his fingerprint in everything in this project.
Absolutely.
VFX, directing, writing. Yeah. It was, you know, now we're turning it back into the good. It's hard not to. Yeah. It's hard not to. There's very little to gripe with this film.
I'm trying to think of, like, anything that, like, I sort of didn't like, but It was well written.
Yeah.
It was well casted. Everybody played
Yeah.
their part incredibly. I thought like the characters were really well written. The VFX was what I expected. Honestly, it was better than I expected it to be.
But after seeing the budget before seeing this film,
Yeah.
they blew me away in that aspect for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, it goes back to that big IP. We see all these VFX issues because they're rushing projects, especially when it comes to superhero movies right now. That's the big thing. Rushing the VFX teams so they can pump these projects out like nothing. But their budgets are nearly $300 million. They're nearly 30 times the budget that Yamazaki got here.
Yeah.
And what he was able to do. And it just goes to show, like, when heart's in it, you're going to get the best. When it's something you love, you're going to get the best foot put forward. You're not... Marvel's right now, obviously, business-oriented.
Oh, yeah.
This was almost... Obviously, you make a movie to make money, but this was as close to heart into a movie as... It almost reminded me last year, a movie that I felt like had a lot of heart was Spielberg's Fabelmans. And then, it's a movie about his life. That movie I left and I was like, it adds to the power of a movie when you can feel the heart put into it.
Yeah.
And that's what Godzilla is.
Yeah, for sure. And it was, I feel like Toho took a chance on this one, probably because they knew it's Godzilla, it's going to make money. Everybody loves Godzilla right now.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot of people always have loved Godzilla, but he's definitely had a resurgence, and that's
he's
a
an
great
icon in
thing.
Hollywood.
I'm so happy about that.
Yeah.
And so I think Toho was like, let's make a Godzilla movie and let's let somebody, like, just do their thing with it.
And I think it being, like, no strings attached to anything else.
Yeah,
Like, being
yeah.
its own movie, obviously somewhat of a remake from the original, helped its case.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the thing of it is, like, I know a lot of people I'm on, like, Facebook Godzilla fan groups and stuff like that, and a lot of people like to focus on how powerful was Godzilla in this new movie, like whatever new Godzilla movie comes out. A lot of people are like, he wasn't as powerful, or he was too powerful,
Yeah.
I guess that was a big gripe with Shin Godzilla.
Okay.
It's just a different Godzilla.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is, with this one, it harkens back to the original Godzilla movie and what Godzilla is all about.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to be so powerful that he just, like...
Can't be stopped.
Yeah, like, I like the new, like, Legendary Pictures Godzilla movies that have been coming out. Like, they're fun, but he's so powerful in those movies. It's unbelievable. But this one, he's sort of dialed back a little bit, but he's still terrifying. They really, like... I don't know, man. He was just really well crafted. I love this Godzilla.
They hit home really hard on him being a monster.
Yeah. Force of nature.
So we'll move on to the bad again. Not much here. I would say the only thing I didn't like was the scene where Godzilla is resurrected with the atomic and all, all of that was really rushed. It went timestamp, Godzilla waking up, blue light, boom, we're back in a new scene. I wish they would have slowed that down a bit, and I get maybe that was a budget thing coming to play, like how much can we show without it looking bad, but that's the only thing I didn't like.
Yeah. The thing about that, I don't know. I didn't really mind that one so much because I don't think I've seen a Godzilla movie where I watched him mutate into, like, Godzilla.
That's fair.
And I felt like that part was sort of keeping the mysticism of that event.
Yeah.
Like, because everybody knows that the bomb hit and Godzilla mutated into what he is.
Yeah.
But, like, you can only just use your imagination to, like, think how that happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it could have been a budget issue as well, but I don't know. I could see where they were coming from.
Yeah, I just think for me, I get, like, the mystery of it, But if you're gonna show it, I wish it was a little bit more.
Yeah.
That would be cool to see it.
No, it would
really
be
played out.
Yeah, for sure.
But like I said, after that, there's nothing, man.
No.
There's nothing.
No, it was excellent.
It's yeah. I think all there's left to do is let's go into our final thoughts and rating of the film.
Let's do it.
So, what do you want to leave off with, and what are you giving this out of 10?
The most well-written Godzilla movie that I've ever seen. Well thought out. Godzilla was a monster. Godzilla looked classic. His snout was the classic
The walk.
Godzilla snout. The walk was just like from the original movie. Harkens back to other Godzilla movies. The characters hook you in this Godzilla movie more, in my opinion, than Godzilla even hooks me into this movie. Godzilla wasn't the good guy in it, which I thought was cool. It sort of scared me sometimes.
Yeah.
There was tension and dread, which I've been like, that's what I want to see in a Godzilla movie because he's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. In this movie, they called Godzilla it the whole time. They didn't say he. They didn't use any pronouns.
Good catch.
It was just it.
Good catch.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Because it's a monster.
Yeah.
Kill it.
You don't know what it is.
Yeah. My rating? God. See, like, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10, man.
Okay. 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
So for me, I agree with everything you said, obviously. You can go on and on with the good. You can deep dive into this film and really still find very few to no flaws. I agree. I loved how it almost felt like a horror movie again.
Yeah.
If you look up any Godzilla movie, the genre that usually pops up is sci-fi. The first movie, though, it says sci-fi horror. And I felt like this one, again, kind of had a horror element to it.
Yeah.
It would, like you said, it was scary. Any movie that makes you cry, you know that something was done really well.
Yeah.
In this movie right here, like I said, it opened the floodgates, especially in the closing. I can't remember. There's very few movies that open and close as well as this one did. Very few movies. And for most of it, I felt like I was like between an 8 and 9, but I think the ending did it for me. And I feel like on Fast Times at Libby, I've been agreeing with my guests. Like our scores have been very similar when we're doing it again here. It's a 9 out of 10 movie. A 9 out of 10 for me is a phenomenal movie, and that's what this was.
Yep. Absolutely.
It was a phenomenal movie. And I just, like I said earlier, I hope that people can get over the subtitle stuff. Yeah. It's not that hard to read for a couple of hours because it is worth it.
Yeah.
It is worth it.
It helps me get more out of the movie, too, when I'm reading it, you know?
Yeah.
Because I know exactly what they're saying.
You can't look away.
Yeah. Yeah.
That does it for Godzilla Minus One. Dustin, thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
You'll be on again
pleasure.
soon. Iron Claw coming out soon. Very excited for that one. Both of us are.
Iron Claw, baby.
So we'll have
Von
you back
Erichs.
here in a couple weeks, but thank you for coming on tonight. Like I said, please go out and check out Godzilla Minus One. It is well worth it. If you're a Godzilla fan, obviously, you're going to go see it. But even if you're not, if you're just a fan of movies, go check this one out because the writing, the story, everything about it is captivating. But new episodes will be coming out, obviously, weekly. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe, like, follow, and leave what you thought about the Godzilla movie down below in the comments. Thank you guys all for watching, and we will talk to you all soon. Peace.